Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lisa with Undermine Propaganda. It is May 12th, 2026, Tuesday afternoon. Just when I think I cannot be shocked by anything with the state of the world that we currently live in, I read a story that does exactly that. It shocks me. And really, it should be no surprise because when humans live in a structure, in a culture, in a society where there's no purpose, no meaningful way to live your life, no connection, no community, just an everyday struggle to survive, just an everyday struggle to try to eat, try to take care of what children you do have, because you certainly can't afford to have any at this point in time if you don't already. Just a struggle to find a place to live, to afford the rent. It's no wonder that people turn to horrific things sometimes really damaging things, sometimes self-harming behaviors happen in these kinds of environments. And that's what our society is filled with now. Our addiction rates are through the roof. Addiction is a way for people to try to self-soothe when they're in an environment that's so painful that it hurts to live. It hurts to get up every morning. Now, the article that I read yesterday, it's almost comical, but if it weren't so tragic. I don't know if any of you have heard about the culture now, especially among young men, of looksmaxing, trying to max your looks and in any way possible. Has some level of this always been in our society because we're so materialistic and superficial? Sure, absolutely. Maybe going to the gym too much, steroid use, and certainly many, many forms of plastic surgery. And some people that actually get addicted to plastic surgery is a form of this. But some of this stuff is just, again, I always say this, but it's a whole new level. And take a look at, let's go ahead and see what looksmaxing is and kind of what it entails with some of these young men. And just read a little brief part of this article. And in this article by GQ, they talk about what is referred to as bone smashing inside the extreme looksmaxer technique. And this is by Charles Sosnick, February 24th, 2026. Just read a little bit of this. When you're a teenager, your parents like taking stuff away from you. Video games, sleepover privileges, the car keys. When Brandon Peters, who you know is clavicular. Now, clavicular, if you don't know, and I just recently became aware of this young man, is the most prevalent, well-known looksmaxer on the internet. So there's been a lot of articles and videos and podcasts about this young man and the extremes he will go to looksmax. Okay, we'll continue here. When Brandon Peters, who you know is clavicular, was a teenager, his mom took away his hammer. She wanted young Clav to stop bone smashing. That is, tapping his face repeatedly with a hammer to change his face shape. Yes, literally beating yourself in the face with a hammer to try to be more physically appealing. To looksmax. Now 20-year-old clavicular, the most famous looksmaxer in the world, continues to bone smash. And as looksmaxing goes from edgelord forum fodder to dinner table conversation, its most notorious face-shaping technique has found the spotlight too. Bone smashing was invented by looksmaxers, a mostly male internet subculture of extreme aesthetic self-improvement. Looksmaxing was developed in the early 2010s, and I never heard anything about this until probably the last 2 months. Looksmaxing was developed in the early 2010s and openly misogynic forums like PUA hate, slut hate, and looksism. And as an ideology, it places appearances above all, believing that how you look determines who you date, how much money you make, and everything else in life. So there's just a little bit of that article to give you an idea of some of the extreme things that younger men are doing in our culture, because we live in a meaningless society at this point. It really is. You have to really seek out and search meaning, because what we are surrounded by are warmongering psychopaths that do not care for other humans. So the article that I read Now, as shocking as that article truly is about bone smashing, and I had heard about that a couple weeks ago, and I was just appalled, for lack of a better word. And as appalled as I was at that, I was just blown away. What people and what the human mind will think of in desperate times is just hard to wrap your mind around. So here is the article here that I read, and it's called Ballmaxing. Yes, Ballmaxing. And in this article by Fox News, Sean Joseph wrote it on May 6th, 2026, so last week. And the headline is, Ballmaxing is electrifying, addictive, euphoric, and transcendental. We don't do transcendental meditation anymore. We inflate our testicles, I guess. But anyway, transcendental, according to those pursuing bigger balls. Men's Health reports on men injecting Surgilube and saline to maximize their scrotum size. So let's go ahead and read this article. If we're going to have looksmaxing, we might as well have ballmaxing too. Am I right? To be clear, I'm not advocating that either should be a thing, but since nobody is putting a stop to the one, why not have the other? Looksmaxing is a bizarre online self-improvement practice. According to Wikipedia, it is focused on the process of maximizing one's physical attractiveness. Now, ballmaxing is slightly different from that. Ballmaxing is all about going for the biggest balls possible. I can't believe I'm even reading these words out loud. Why? Who really knows? But it's here, and according to Men's Health, there are some who have been wrapped up in the pursuit of bigger balls for many years. A 57-year-old man by the name of Marcus told the Men's Lifestyle magazine that he's been obsessed with making his balls bigger for decades. It's a passion he thinks grew out of the comic books he read as a child. By his own measurements, his scrotum is bigger than a mango. My God. What world are we living in that I'm reading these words from an actual article that actually reports on actual people that are actually doing this? He reports his scrotum is bigger than a mango at 14.5 inches. He has managed to grow it to that size by injecting a surgical lubricant called Surgilube. Why? He's not sure. But he learned a few things along the way, he said. I'm astonished at how flexible the testicles are. They just expand. Fascinating. Not only that there's someone out there doing that, but that he's not alone. Men's Health reports that there's a subreddit for saline inflation that has more than 8,700 members. They are, of course, sharing their own ballmaxing journeys with one another, a journey described by Jack, 31, who told Men's Health, nothing really matches experience it yourself. The blue-collar worker added, you have to talk yourself into doing it. Find the time, get everything prepped, and then sit there for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half while it takes effect. There's a burning sensation that is apparently part of the whole experience, an experience that has been described as electrifying, addictive, euphoric, and transcendental. One may come to the conclusion that perhaps they have too much free time on their hands if they're pumping saline into their balls for fun. I say at least they're not carving people up in their basements. Oh my goodness. So there's that. And I just want to go back to the reasons that we get to a place like this in our society is because it's hopeless. It's because people can't even afford to have children anymore. It's because people are struggling, more and more people every day. And the disparity between the rich and the poor is growing and growing. We are past Gilded Age here. We are far past Gilded Age. And there's study after study after study that shows that the more inequality there is in a society, the more levels of psychosis, the more levels of depression, the more levels of suicide, addiction, gambling, and then stuff like this. Because humans will seek out a way to try to find meaning and purpose. You know, you have cults as well in societies that are breaking down where there's no meaning and no purpose and only struggle. And the biggest elephant in the room here in the cults is the MAGA, going towards a lying con man to be their savior because they had no hope and no meaning and purpose in their life that made sense to them. So they glommed on to somebody that told them that they were going to make things better. So we are so susceptible as human beings, all of us, to these types of harmful almost on some level ridiculous behavior because of the society we live in and how desperately we need to change. We need to change the system. We need to create a society that's collective. We need to create a society that has meaning and that has purpose. We need to create a society that has compassion and empathy, and it doesn't derive everything from money and power and looks. We have to create a better system. Okay, well, after reading such an article, I need to go debrief myself. And I want to say thank you to anybody that listened today. And thank you so much to the current subscribers, PT0311, David Cordero, Susan Chapman, Hank Roos, and Eileen Anithned. Also, thank you to anybody else that subscribed that I don't have a name to read out, but I appreciate all you guys and anybody, like I said, that watched today. If you found anything of value, maybe not value, or interesting, please like, comment, subscribe is free, and share. And importantly, please, I hope you find some peace in the rest of your day. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.